Nation, we've been talking a lot of prog lately. You know, prog! From Storm Corrosion to Rush, to Flying Colors, and more. And it's time for us to talk about another album that is progressive in nature. This one has a little bit more of a progressive power metal twinge to it that was just released in the past couple of weeks. In fact, I think it was last week. I'm not going to say past few whenever it's been last. Circus Maximus is 9. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar with this band is now on their 3rd album. They are a band that is progressive in nature that also is able to incorporate power metal, a little bit of symphonics into their sound, and actually have a nice little classic rock twinge to it too, a la Rush. So, prog rock, prog metal, power metal, synth, symphonic metal. Yeah, that's a lot of metal. I like the sound. This is a sound that reminds me of a lot of classic era bands, but at the same time also harkens back to the 1990s and to the 2000s era of progressive music, where bands such as Enchant and Labyrinth and other lesser-known bands that maybe didn't get as much airplay, even Van Den Plas a little bit, were able to really shift the scene a little bit, and there's a lot of focus on both instrumentalization, but at the same time, and a little bit of diversity, a little bit of symphonic nature, you know, elaborate and exclusive use of the keys, and really that sound was harkening back to the sounds of bands such as Kansas and the like, and what I like about Circus Maximus is that at times, even though it really kind of saunters back to bands like Pain of Salvation and the like in the emotional department, which we'll get to in a minute, they're sometimes even able to conjure up a little bit of old school Rush in there and kind of blend it together. So this is a really big sonic blender, and sonic blenders are usually fun to review because there is a lot of inspiration to draw off of. Now, this is an album that also is able to incorporate diversity into it. You're able to incorporate it both musically and vocally, because in progressive music it is very, very important to have a wide range, and that wide range is usually what catalyzes an album to become great. And this is an album that's definitely turning some heads, and for good reason. This album has a lot to offer a listener. It's very bold, it's very adventurous, both lyrically, both thematically, and also in the way in which the construction of the songs takes place. And the flow of it is very natural. This is something that does not feel like it goes in one direction and then kind of just hits a dead end. I also feel a little bit of redemption whenever I think about the flow, because Redemption's albums have all seemed to have a very nice flow to them from point A, track 1, to point B, the final track. This is also an album that gets the epic on the album out of the way firsthand. Second track on the album, right after the you kind of get your first taste, you're getting the epic taste. Now, this is unlike what happened on the Flying Colors album that I just reviewed, where the epic didn't come into the final track, the 12-minute long epic track. And, of course, we had the discussion during the Flying Colors review of there being some bands that are good at epics, whereas other bands are good at shorter songs, and some bands are able to be very good at the mid-range songs, kind of the medium-length songs. So, where does Circus Maximus lie? Now, on this particular album, they lie as kind of jacks of all trades. They're able to keep you enthralled for the long period of time, the long epic, the 10-minute long epic. They're also able to keep you involved during the mid-range, but it seems like the shorter songs are a place where their strength might just be amped up just a little bit more, because they're able to kind of get a little bit more aggressive. They're kind of all able to jam a little bit, and also kind of pack a lot into a very short period of time. Either that, or they're able to conjure up some creativity and be a little bit more forthright in their emotions. Now, there is a certain emotional honesty in this record that I really like. This is something where they're tackling some very difficult themes. They're tackling some themes that are sometimes above us as human beings, such as faith, such as you know, life itself, you know, really kind of tackling all those things that we think about on a daily basis. Real forward-thinking, but at the same time also very introspective lyrics that are reflected upon you and cause you yourself to think as well. Now, musically, I know I just described a real mishmash of different artists in order to incorporate their sound. However, this is something where you almost have to hear it to believe it. This is a sound where I feel that I have heard it before through other bands. However, it's a nice modern rendition of it. It's a nice modern version of it, and they've been able to twinge it around That way they can make their identity very individualistic. You know, this has a very European flavor to it, but you've also heard it in other corners of the universe, so that's definitely got nothing to do with country. But whenever I think of bands that have been able to blend both power and progressive music, you know, this is just one in a very, very long line. And, you know, I might not be able to name a few right off the bat right here. However, there are just a couple bands that I think about that I just wish were still around or were still making music, and one of them being Spheric Universe Experience. I think they still are making music, but I haven't seen anything or heard anything from them in quite a long time. And there's another band by the name of Stonehenge that was excellent at that as well. Both purveyors of the progressive rock, even leaning a little bit more to the symphonic or the power metal side as well. Something where it's easy to blend it, because if you get a little bit more aggressive in progressive music, you are going to be leaning a little bit more towards power metal, unless, of course, you're a band like Flying Colours that's trying to take it more into classic rock and a crunchy metal direction. So, overall, the body of this album is very, very well packaged. I really like the fact that I can listen to this album in one sitting and feel as though I was listening to one man's thoughts, almost as though he were trying to describe how he pictures the universe to me, and I don't get bored. You know, I don't get, you know, bogged down by what is said. I, in fact, think with him, I suffer with him, you know, have revelations with him. It's very, very soothing in that nature. I also like the fact that the music is able to give me a nice variety palette, almost like getting one of those samplers of all the appetizers at a restaurant. It's almost like take your pick, which one is the one that you like the best. We're going to give you everything on a silver platter. So for that, this is a band and an album in 9 by Circus Maximus that has certainly given prog a great representation here in the middle part of the summer. I'm going to have to give this album a nice high up 8.5 out of 10. Really enjoyed this. This was definitely a lot of fun to listen to, and I gotta say, I listened to Circus Maximus a little bit prior to this, and I was impressed, but I was just kind of like, I was kind of just wavering between, you know, excellent and just, you know, plain old good or great. But this is an album where they really kind of, you know, put their feet into the mud, put their nose to the grindstone, and just really dug out a fantastic record. So this is definitely one for you guys to check out if you're a progster, or even if you're just a fan of power metal or just even some classic metal. This has a little something for everybody, and definitely geared more towards the proggernaut in you, so to speak. So definitely give this album a sample, and I think in the next couple of reviews we're not going to be talking prog. So if you don't like prog, you can now rejoice, because we're done talking about prog. At least for now. We'll see. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll talk to you guys later, and thank you all once again for just being fantastic. I'll talk to you later.